Hi everyone, Simon Keeling here, Wednesday the 19th of December. Thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. As always, the site's get free of charge by the adverts that you see around the screen here. So it's when you come to weatherweb.net and use the adverts and come to the site regularly, use the charts, etc. That's what generates revenue, which keeps the site completely free of charge. So thank you for doing that. Now, apologies for this video being a little bit late online as well today. Today's a major briefing day for us pre-Christmas for our business clients. So what we're doing is we're advising them on how the models are seeing things develop over the January, February, March period. And of course, many companies now really focusing in on spring, and also many large agricultural companies focusing on spring as well now. So we're trying to pin down some of how the weather may develop at that stage. Of course, I stress to you, as I stress to them, it's only ever a guidance, it's not a forecast, and it's just picking up on what some of the models are now showing us. We're very lucky to be able to have so much computer power out there now that the models can give us this sort of guidance going further ahead. But what we try and do is a little bit of weather intelligence for these companies. So my apologies for the late issue of the forecast. If you're interested, if you're a company and you're interested in using weather intelligence for you, just let me know, send me an email, and I'll explain a little bit more about it and how it works, how it can work for your company. But anyway, on to the forecast. And first of all, just wanted to pick up on this chart. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly chart. This is from Monday, and what it shows us is where water is above normal, where water is below normal. And I just wanted to point out this area here, look, this warm water that's sitting here in the North Atlantic. Now that puts us within this sort of category here. So we're looking at around 0.5 degree to 2 degrees above normal for the time of year. Now what happens here, the effect of this is that, don't think of it as warming the atmosphere, but what it means is that if we get any air travelling in off the colder regions of North America or Greenland across this area, it's very unstable because there's a sharp temperature contrast between the surface and upper levels. So it becomes very unstable, which means that we get its potential area for the formation of heavy showers, of unsettled conditions. Anything coming from there is going to be very unsettled. It's just interesting to see that block of warm water in there. And when we look at the upper atmosphere, I always show the 500 millibar charts and talk about heights being above normal or below normal for the time of year. Well, this is where we should see conditions. So this is where average conditions are of the 500 millibar heights, and this is where they are at the moment. So you can see here how that cold block is kind of shifted off towards the northeast there, and it's this kind of change in the cold block here out towards the west compared to the cold block sat in here, look, across Greenland. It's this shift in pattern westwards which is generating the uncertainty in the forecasts just at the moment, which is why yesterday afternoon we got this rogue run of the GFS, I call it a rogue run, which showed very cold conditions. And kind of you can't dismiss that altogether because there's so much riding on the forecast of the next few days in terms of how the winter forecast turns out for the next few weeks, that you kind of can't dismiss those sort of cold runs. And if we look at the anomaly, these are the anomalies of the 500 millibar flow from midnight last night, and you can see how the heights are much higher than normal still, look, across the northern parts of Russia, running in across Greenland into the northeastern states. This is where that blocking high is, and what it's doing, it's just preventing air from building northwards. It's pushing the jet stream south, and it's that really is in control of things just at the moment. Interesting as well just to see how that develops, because we've got this big question mark over the Christmas period at the moment. This is from the PSU EWOL site, and this is the chart from midnight last night. You see here's our trough, look, out here in the Atlantic. There's the ridge up to the north. Okay, so what's happening here is that we're getting a flow. Let's just get rid of that window for you. There we go. We're getting a flow coming in across the Atlantic. And what that's doing is, here's the Atlantic flow. We've got this strong jet across Central America. Then we get this build of a ridge off the eastern coast. Then we dip down into a trough through the Atlantic with this weak ridge across the British Isles. But of course this trough is now swinging eastwards through the country. So let's just look. You see the evolution of that. There it goes. Look, the trough just sweeping its way eastwards. Where are we? We're there. Look, there we are. There's the trough sweeping eastwards. But look, you see how the trough is in here, but look what it comes up against. It comes up against this ridge here. So it's this ridge that's preventing the trough getting in properly and getting us a proper west to east flow. Now what the model then tries to do is it tries to build in this ridge, look, out towards the east, and effectively this becomes a block as well, because it squeezes, look, this trough as it's moving up against it. It sharpens this trough even more, and it strengthens this ridge, but this ridge just can't go any further north because it's meeting up with this cold air that's up here. So what happens? Well, it gets squeezed westwards, it gets squeezed also eastwards as well, cuts off this feature here, sends that down into the Black Sea area. And the question is, what happens to this trough? This is Christmas Eve, okay, and you'll notice here what the GFS does with it. Look, it just wants to build it eastwards, it wants to bring the trough through, and it collapses the ridge. I don't think that's going to happen. Kind of the model has strong support for it, the GFS and the ensembles all have strong support for that happening. But let me just take you back and show you what I think could happen here. Is if we get this Christmas Eve chart, okay, well, if this trough cuts through, it's headed down here, okay, it's cutting this ridge back westwards. So effectively what happens is that this trough slips southeast into Europe, and what that would do is then cut off as this here starts to flow back into the ridge that's across the north of America. What it then does is it links back in this ridge across the north. It puts high pressure in here, it puts low pressure down here across Central Europe, and the flow that we get eventually comes in from the east. But, and this is where the big but comes in, and this is kind of where the rogue GFS run from yesterday came in, because then you've still got these features coming back in from across the Atlantic. So it's not like a typical cut-off cold pool. So I think what will happen is we get an easterly flow that develops across Scotland and is difficult to move. We get a westerly flow that comes, actually probably a bit further south than that comes across the Atlantic through the Bay of Biscay, northern parts of Spain. Okay, and kind of this middle portion of the British Isles is left almost in a semi-limbo. So what happens if we go progressively cooler, which is what the medium ranges are looking at, progressively cooler, and stay unsettled, but Scotland remains cold, and it's there where we see the greatest risk of snow. That's where I think this pattern is going to evolve to. So let's just look at what happens in the next few hours. This is the total rainfall chart ending on the 27th at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can see just how much rainfall there is. Look, all of this area here, all of this area in here, we've got rainfall totals of over 100 millimetres. They're big totals of rain, 135 millimetres across southern parts of Scotland. So some very big totals of rain expected in the next week in those areas, and we can kind of see where that comes from. This is today's chart. This is the front that's moving its way eastwards just at the moment. Now, what we find overnight tonight is we get a second pulse of rain here. Okay, so it's this area down here that we're interested in, moving its way northeastwards. It's that really starts to give the heavy rain. At the moment, it's focusing it across southern England, across the Midlands, and across northern parts of England into southern Scotland, and also through the Isle of Man, through Wales and southwest of England. It's this area that seems to be most at risk of rain, and we could see a total of 50 millimetres of rain in this area. Okay, more generally I think we're going to go for probably around the 20 to 30 mark, but it could be this high. One or two locations could see 70 millimetres, so we are going to get some risk of flooding, and you just see the area of rain that covers the country by tomorrow morning. Now, through tomorrow morning, low pressure is going to be off the eastern coast of Wales. So much of the area again is wet, it's dark, it's windy, it's yuck, and there is that southeast flow look through Scotland. So a raw day really across northeast England, southeast Scotland, and snow across the high ground of southern Scotland too, but generally feeling raw. Now through Friday afternoon, dry weather just edges onto the southern coast, but it stays wet for Wales, across northern England, across Southern Ireland. More snow to come here across the southern part of Scotland. I wouldn't rule it out at low levels, but I think it's mainly across higher ground. Then what we find is the front clears its way east and north into Friday. So Friday's a dry day, it's mild across the south with sunny spells, but look, more rain affecting Scotland. Then during the evening on Friday, rain spreads across Ireland, across southwestern parts of England. It pushes its way eastwards through Sunday morning. It looks at the moment as if it's mainly going to be Ireland, southern Wales and southern England that sees heavy rain during the course of Sunday. And this again brings the problem of flooding, because I think that anywhere really within this area is at risk of flooding. Okay, so it's in that area that we're going to be seeing the risk of flooding. Now, where could be severe flooding is southern Wales and this kind of southwestern portion of England in there. That's where it could be severe flooding within that zone, and that's what's going to be watched very carefully, I feel. Then as we get through Saturday afternoon, the rain spreads its way eastwards. Again, it becomes heavy at times. But again, look at this flow. This is a southeasterly flow through Scotland. So again, these southern parts of Scotland, any precipitation that comes in is going to be falling as snow. Down to the south, much warmer. Across Scotland, it's cold. Then into Sunday, another area of rain there, look, tracking its way northeastward through all areas, heavy at times. And you notice now that what the model tries to do is bring in a south to southwesterly flow across all areas through Christmas Eve. I am not convinced by this one and that the mild air will get in that quickly, but it may well do. So at the moment I'm going to go with it and say it's going to be milder Christmas Eve, probably dry, sunny spells as well. Then overnight to Christmas Day, well, the flow turns more into the west. So we're seeing a flow come from a colder direction. So certainly a cooler day on Christmas Day. I think showers affecting many of these western coasts. Still not bad for an afternoon walk. Eastern areas tending to be much brighter. And then into Boxing Day, well, again, a cooler look to the flow. I think some snow showers affecting Scotland, the far north of England, but we have got these fronts out towards the west here, which are going to be moving their way eastwards later on Boxing Day, bringing outbreaks of rain during Boxing Day itself. And then the GFS ensemble, which is this is taken from, wants to bring us back into more of a near normal southwest flow, but keep it unsettled through this period. This probably, I think, is about excuse me, probably about right, but I do think these lows are going to be further south, so instead of being up here I think it's probably going to be down here excuse me. And what I think will happen is that the result of that low being in here is that Scotland is in more of a southeasterly flow, and that keeps the cooler conditions there. However, I can't stress strongly enough the question mark that remains over this at the moment, and really we're just going to be trying to update this as each model run comes through, because I'm just not convinced that this is how things will turn out. I still go with Scotland being colder. Let's keep the south on the milder side, but I'd still go for temperatures probably a degree below normal for the time of year, but I think the emphasis is on the unsettled. So lots of information there. I hope it was clear. I know there was lots to explain to you, but as I said at the beginning, the sites get free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen. So by you using the adverts, going through to the adverts, using the site, using the charts, that's what keeps us free of charge. So once again, thanks for watching and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.